Hello and welcome to another Every Tuesday tutorial. In this week's tutorial, we're going to be creating exactly what you see on screen, so that's the final outcome of this week's tutorial. And I do want to preface this by saying that I am going to be using some of the textures out of my newest Glitz and Glam Foil and Glitter Kit. So if you haven't checked that out, I'll leave a link to that. I did give away one of those textures for free last week, so if you want to play around with that before getting the kit, definitely feel free to do that, and I will leave a link to that as well. This week I'm going to be creating this as if it were an Instagram post, so I'm going to show you exactly how I set up all of my Instagram posts in Photoshop, and we're just going to jump right in and get started. So up here I'm going to go File, New, and for my document I'm going to make it 700 pixels wide by 700 pixels high, resolution 300, so it's super crisp, and definitely working in RGB since this is going to be seen on screen and the colors are far more vibrant in RGB. So I'm going to hit OK. And now we need to define a background color. So I'm going to double click on this background, hit OK to unlock it. I'm going to label it background because we're going to be having quite a few layers in this file. So I want to make sure everything's very clearly marked. And then over here, you're going to click on this background color, and you want to make sure your RGB is defined as 37, 37, 37, or the hex is 25, 25, 25, and just hit OK. Now the keyboard shortcut to set that as your background color is Command-Delete on a Mac or Control-Backspace on a PC, and it will fill that color in. So next we need to do kind of a little bit of behind the scenes work before we can really get into things, because we want to essentially apply a brush to a path. So we need to create that path right now. So we're going to come over here and click on our ellipse tool. So just click on your shape tool and toggle down and choose ellipse. Now that we have our ellipse tool up at the top, you'll notice you have a fill color and then you have this little drop down that says shape. You want to click on that and then choose path. So the next thing we need to do is create our circle and have it emanate from the very center of our artboard, so everything is centered in our layout. So in order to do that, we need to draw some guidelines. And you can do that by using your rulers, which you can see up here at the top and on the side of my screen. If you don't see rulers on your screen, you can make them appear by hitting Command R or Control and the letter R on your keyboard, and when I do that you can see they go away and they reappear. So you're just going to come over to your left ruler and you're just going to click once and drag, and you can drag until you hit 350 since our entire artboard is 700 pixels wide by 700 pixels wide. So we're going to do the same thing by clicking on the top ruler and just dragging a guideline until it hits 350 over here. So this is the very center point of our layout. Next, as you can see, we've still got our ellipse tool selected and we've got paths selected up here. We're going to line our crosshairs right in the center, and then we're going to hold Shift and Alt, and we're just going to click and drag. And as you drag, you will drag your circle out for your wreath. So just get it to the size that you'd like it to be and then release. And you'll notice if you come to your paths palette over here, it'll say work path, and if you don't see your paths palette, you can get to it by going Window, Paths, but this is exactly what we want to show up right here. And you can, with it selected, you can see your circle and you can click anywhere to deselect it. So in order to remove your crosshairs right here, all you have to do is hit Command semicolon or Control semicolon and it'll hide them, and if you ever need to bring them back, just hit Control semicolon or Command semicolon to bring them back. Next, we're going to come back over here and we're going to create our brush, but it's really important that we have this work path now to use with our brush. So we're going to create a dynamic brush. My glitter kit comes with 12 dynamic brushes, so you can do things like this, but I wanted to show you how to create a basic one using a circle, kind of mimicking berries right here. So we're going to come over here and we are going to hit B on our keyboard to get our brush tool. You can also click on it in the toolbox over here, and then toggle down over here and choose this hard brush. Make sure hardness is 100% and our size that we're going to be working with is 12 pixels. So next we're going to open up our brush panel, and if you don't see this, you can get to it by going Window, Brush, and it'll show up. And we're going to click on Shape. Actually, first we're going to increase our spacing a little bit down here to, let's do like 150%. and we'll change it depending on how everything looks. Next, we're going to come over here and click on Shape Dynamics and make sure it's highlighted blue, so you've got this new panel over here. And the size jitter, I'll show you what it looks like. So if you have a low size jitter, it means the difference in the sizes in each one of these circles will be very slight. If you have an enormous size jitter, it's going to be very noticeable that you have different size circles in here. So I like going somewhere in between. I like keeping it around 50%. Next, we're going to click on Scatter. Everything else is set to 0, by the way. Next, we're going to click on Scatter. Come over here to this panel, make sure it's blue so you can see these settings. And this determines, as you can see down here, as I toggle this, you can see all the circles are pretty close together in one line. And as I increase it, they scatter more, so it kind of looks a little more like snow, which is really pretty. So just find a setting that works for you. I'm going to keep mine, I think, around 700. Okay, so now I'm going to come back to brush tip shape and let's see spacing. I might bring them a little closer together since I'm going around a circle, and I want it, if I have them too far apart, it's going to be hard to tell it's a circle. So I think this is a little bit better. Let me just make it an even 100 here. Let me go get rid of that. Okay, so now all of our work for our berries can be applied to our path. Create a new layer. Go to your Paths panel, click on Work Path, click on this icon, and now we've got it. Click anywhere to get rid of the circle. All right, it's really important that this is on its own layer because we need to make a copy of it. So hold Alt, click, and drag, and now we've got a copy. We're going to set this top. Let me do berries. It's going to be called Berries Color, and this one's going to be Berries Texture. Okay, so the berries color layer, you're going to set this to color right here for your blend mode. And berries texture, you're going to double click, and this is where you'd use some of those glitter textures that I talked about. I'm going to use a silver one. This is the silver one I'm going to use. It is Silver Glimmer. And you're going to reduce the scale to 50%. And now they look a little 3D. Which is cool. Oh, and the red that I'm using here is RGB 143, 20, and 9. And the hex is 8F1409. Hit OK. All right. Next, we're going to start bringing in other elements. As you can see right here, we've got our text, and then we've got a few little pine sprigs and a couple of stars. So this is the part that you just kind of decorate it now that the hard work is done. So I'm going to bring in my typography, which is just, I have my typography open. Let me grab it out of this one. I'm just going to bring that in. So this was just vectorized typography, and I applied, I'll show you the layer style I applied. I used the silver foil, the silver hot foil, and the scale is 25% right there. And just kind of move it around and find a good place for it. If you have berries, this is going to go on top of the berries. I'm going to group these berries layers together, Command G or Control G on a PC. And then I'm going to create a mask, so just click this little icon down here. And the important thing to remember is black conceals and white reveals whenever you're using a mask. And we want to get rid of some of these berries, so black is going to be concealing. So you just want to make sure black is on top over here. Hit B on your keyboard. Choose this hard round brush. If you don't choose this again, it's going to do the scatter brush, and you don't want that for when you're masking. So now I can kind of erase away some of the little berries that are maybe hitting in awkward places. Just cleans it up a little bit, makes the type stand out a little bit better. I can get rid of these too. Okay, that looks good. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is bring in some of the other vector elements from the kit. These came with the kit. I'm going to grab this little sprig right here, Command C or Control C to copy, come into Photoshop, Command V or Control V to paste it in as a smart object. That way you can scale it up and scale it down, and it'll always look perfectly crisp. And this is where you just kind of rotate, position, and figure out how you want things to look. And I'm just gonna do sprig 1. I'm going to double click, and I'm going to apply a gold foil texture to that. So pattern overlay, I'm going to choose the foil right here, and I'm going to reduce this. Let's see what 50 looks like. Let's see what 25 looks like. That looks good. Hit OK, and this is the part where I'm going to speed up the video and put these all the way around my wreath and position them. Okay, so I've got all of my sprigs placed in here and they're all gold, and I've got them all in their own folder. I've grouped them together and they're the gold texture. But as you can see, in a few of these areas, I'm overlapping some of the berries, which is perfectly fine. But if you ever find yourself having berries underneath that you're not, like right here, I'm not particularly fond of how that's looking, feel free to come back here to your mask layer. And as soon as you click on your mask, you'll notice right away that black is in your foreground and white is in your background. So you're ready to go. You just have to hit B on your keyboard for your brush tool. And to make sure you can see right here in the brush panel, this is not the scattered brush that we were using from before. This is a smooth one, which is exactly what we want. So you can just brush this away right here. Okay, that looks good. So the last thing that I did for the example was throw in a few of these little stars around here, and I've added a new texture, new foil texture to those. So I'm just going to do that right now. And once again, I'm just going to grab it from my bonus vectors over here, Command C or Control C to copy, and then Command V or Control V to paste. Paste it in as a smart object. That's really important. And I'm actually going to make sure that this is positioned above my sprigs. So just drag that layer right up above the sprigs, and I'm going to label this stars. And I'm going to, let's figure out a foil before I speed this up. So I'm going to double click, pattern overlay, and I'm going to choose maybe a glittery one. Let's see what that looks like. 25, that looks pretty. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. This one was called, this texture that I'm using is called Silver Tiny Glitter. Hit OK, and now speed it up and just position these around, and then we'll be done. Okay, so in order to collapse these, I'm just holding Shift and selecting all of them, and then just click on that once they're all selected, and it'll condense all of these. I think this was a CS6 feature. So if you're in, I'm in CS6 right now. So if you're in CS6 or newer, that'll work. And then just hit Command G or Control G to group them together, label this stars, and now we're done. So now I would just save it as a JPEG, a high-res JPEG, and then I would email it to myself and then post it to Instagram, which is exactly what I've done today if you came here from that post. So thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this tutorial, please subscribe. I release a new design tutorial every single Tuesday. And don't forget to hop on over to my blog, every-tuesday.com, for that free texture, which I will link to, more information on the foiling glitter kit, and a bunch of design freebies and even more tutorials. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next week.